All right, welcome to another episode from the Chart Reader. So we're going to look at three, probably four on this one today. BBAI, as you see on the screen, Open, and SOFI are the ones I want to talk about. I'll probably include SoundHound when I cover BBAI. So, look, normally on a day like this, I would start to get a little bit excited, right? Because today was a nice over 100 million share day. It was the first day in quite a while we got over the 50-day line. We actually have green over red on the RSI. You can see it barely, but there is green over red on the MACD. Not too bad down here, and obviously the volume would normally get me more excited. We're actually also over the 8 moving average, so again, that would also normally get me really excited. I don't know what to think just yet, and I'll go over that in detail shortly, but I am not as excited as I normally would be, even as I see that bounce on the 200, which is a very strong line that normally bounces well. All right, so it's weird to say, excuse me, almost good on every single one of these indicators, and then like hang it with I don't think I trust it just yet, right? But that really is where I'm at right now. It's very 50-50, and it's less about the doji actually. It is more about this 20 moving average, and that's the detail we'll get into, all right? Soundhound really quickly, and again, I'll probably even just keep it quick when we talk about it. We're basically living at this line, and truth be told, I don't remember where I drew this from. I'll zoom back and take a look, but yeah, we've been over all the lines. We actually tried to make up this green, red, right? We almost made it. Couldn't quite get over to the biggest candle to the left, and kind of been going horizontal. Like I said, that's a better line than I expected it to be, but I think this one's just kind of waiting. The one thing that I did notice, Nvidia made a substantial improvement, but just like I was talking about, we never confirmed the loss. We still actually really haven't confirmed the break of anything just yet, right? So Nvidia does look better, but just like it looks scary, and I said it doesn't look scary, it looks better, but it doesn't look good just yet, right? So maybe AI in general is still kind of holding its breath with Nvidia. I don't know, but yeah, just a little odd to see those two right there. From there, we'll take a look at Open, and look, it's funny. If you watch my videos, you know I generally draw a 50% candle. That's actually where we closed. I didn't, but I still really like the two lines that I drew. So I'll go over these quickly. I took a bunch of minutes going over where I got these, right? But I think these are still the lines that matter. Look, I think there's a very real chance that this thing can come as low as 810 on Monday, all right? But yeah, if we can get over this thing right here, this 990 line, give or take, I think there's so much to like. And really, more than anything, that $9 makes a lot of sense where we closed today, and I do believe it was a back pocket number at the end of yesterday's video, right? So yeah, wasn't a beautiful day, but hey, if you've been watching the videos, you know the trend, right? Up from the 8 down to the 8, up to the 8 down to the 8, up to the 8 down to the 8, up to the 8. Maybe we're going to come back down one more time before we take back off, right? Like it's what it's been doing until it tells me otherwise, right? So Open, we'll talk about that one more time, and then SoFi. Look, I know this does not look like a big percentage. I know this does not look like a big beautiful candle. There is so, and you know, it's funny to even see the inverse, the lower indicators being a little inverse, right? You have, actually it's not really inverse. It is red over green on both, but I'm seeing the green line go up here and the green line go down there. Even with red over green on both and the volume not being there, man, I love this candle right here. I really do. So SoFi seems like it's finally getting ready to go into that all-time high love. Again, I know all-time high is way higher. It's all the way up here at 28 something, right? Give or take, right? We'll get to that detail later. But yeah, it smells like blue skies and all-time highs right about now. You know what I mean? So, and again, where are we on the index ocean? Oh, it is calm. It is in all-time highs. Like, it is nice, right? 70 RSI makes me think we can still have more. That's a nice MACD with green over red. As we look at the S&P 500, same MACD, green over red. 64 is a low number. Not the same green that we got today, but still, I'm all right with this, right? I am all right with this. And then coming to the Dow Jones, a little bit uglier. I will say that, right? We are holding 50% candle. Not really sure why this one was as ugly as it was compared to the other two. But hey, you know me, right? I love tech. I'm generally looking at NASDAQ. This is a little heavier on tech, right? So really NASDAQ looking how it does, and then the S&P 500 not looking as bad as Dow Jones, I would say makes me comfortable looking at these tech stocks right here, right? So cool. Before we do go any further, though, and I give you more of my thoughts and opinions, what are we going to do? Same thing we always do, right? We'll take a look at the daily and the weekly to see how these things are setting up short term. We have our 5 moving averages. There are horizontal support and resistance lines that I do draw manually myself. And then when we are done up here, we'll use the MACD, RSI, and volume as our lower indicators. Hey, really quickly, if you can, please subscribe to this channel. Share this video online with your friends. Comment good or bad if you disagree. Look, anything you can do helps so much with these YouTube algorithms. But for real, just being here, giving me your time, oh, I'm so grateful for it, all right? So, look, let's get into BBAI. And believe me, I know how crazy it sounds when I say this doesn't look bad, this doesn't look bad, actually this looks good, that looks good, this doesn't look bad. There's some technical bouncing happening right here. All those words together on a single daily chart generally are good things, but I am concerned right now, all right? And I think this is a good view. We use the 8 and the 20 as a pair, and then these ones are kind of individual, right? If you've seen my videos before, hopefully you know that really well. If you don't, well, there you go. That's what we do, right? And I mean, you can use it. This is an even better view, actually. There, you just ride the 8 up and up and up until you just can't, and then the 20, like a best friend, throws you right back up. You know what I mean? Sometimes we'll use another line, but the 8 and the 20 are just a team. Bounce, 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 20 bounce, 8, 8, 8, 20 bounce. Then what happens, and again, we see it on both sides, when you lose the 20 and the 8, you just stay under the 8. You just can't get back over it, can't get back over it, can't get back over it. And then when you do, 20 throws you right back down. 20 throws you right back down. 20 throws you right back down, right? We saw it earlier. 20 threw us back down. 20 threw us back down. 20 threw us back down. We're just bouncing on the 8, bouncing on the 8. We're now at the 20. Is the 20 going to throw us back down, or is it actually going to let us get back over? And that's our question right now, all right? I'm going to see if I can lower this line right now. If not, I'm going to definitely draw another one that's at least immediate right now. But I'm honestly not looking at this 200. And hey, maybe that's a wrong thing. The 200 is the last one, the strongest one. It is hard to break up, and it should be hard to lose down. And this looks like a nice technical bounce. That could be the 200 moving average saying, no, you're not going below me. Bounce, baby, bounce. And like up it goes, right? So that's for sure a possibility, right? But I think my question really is, are we still at the mercy of the 8 and the 20? Or are the lines ready to become our friend, all right? I think this volume right here, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more. This volume right here is maybe an easy answer that it's actually a good bounce, all right? I think, and if you know my videos well, we need more than one candle. We need more than one volume day. Friday is kind of supposed to be a loser day, so to have a good volume day on Friday actually does make it a little nicer in my head, but still, I need more than one candle. We need confirmation up. I need more than one volume pop, and that's you know, so far what we're in, what's you know, in the head, right? At the minimum, you know, we haven't had a volume day since this. Really, this was a bad volume day in a lot of ways, right? Because it was that earnings gap down. So you know, yeah, I mean, it's good volume, it is, right? But I'm the 8 and the 20 thing is still really bothering me. What I want to see, and that's actually why I paused right there. So, you know, it's interesting to, let me draw this line and let me say the words in my head. So this is the bottom of that gap down candle, right? It closes up here. It actually closes, and you can see the green number at the top of the box and where I'm clicking. It dropped down here, but then it went up here, right? So this is the bad line for the earnings candle. And we don't go below it on this day. We go below it on this day, and then we don't confirm, and then we're back up on it, right? So we're still holding this candle, this earnings gap down candle. Again, I think holding the 200 moving average probably matters just a little bit more. But yeah, look, again, there are a number of things on this screen that you can arguably say today is a bullish day and let's go. At the minimum, it's a doji, and you know me, dojis are 50-50. But yeah, now what I want to do is see how important this 550 line is. It's basically the bottom of this is what it is. Because what I want to do is put this line. Oh, that's too low. All right, what's your 50%? It's kind of what we wicked today. Let's zoom in here and see if that's a decent line or if we have to raise it back to 550. Oh, that's a good 50% of that and 50% of that. That's not a bad line, actually, and I don't think there's much else that happens after that point right there. No, not really. Let's zoom in. We wicked it today. Generally, I'd like to go just a little higher than a wick point. And where were we? We were at 550, right? Let's call it 540. Let's kind of do an in-between of the two lines. I would say 540 is going to be the money line. If you can break 540, I'm going to guess that that kind of opens right there. Really, you break 540, I think there's a real nice path to 625. Can't quite do the math in my head right there, but I think that's about 20%. You're adding a little less than a buck, and it's not quite 20%, but it's a nice double digit, that's for sure. It is going to be really bad if this goes below 460. All right. What I don't want to see is this go below 490, because more than anything, if we go below 490, all of a sudden I was right and we are still at the mercy of these two lines, right? Get me over 540 and I'll start thinking to myself, all right, what was, and we've seen it before, what was an enemy and what did bounce on the 200 previously will again become a friend at some point. It will. Like BBAI, I don't think is going to go anywhere, right? And again, NASDAQ is looking good. QQQ, just because it's easier to type, right? But that's continuing to go. That's a nice divergence right there. That green line just wants to keep going up. This isn't bad. It's kind of saying tech is good. And again, with that, with the volume, with the lower indicators, most videos, I would say this is good to go. We got to see what it looks like just to emphasize it one last time. Look, with SoundHound, my best guess, let me see. Where did this 14, how good was that line? Really? It was just that moment right there. Oh, is it an IPO-ish kind of line? Give me a sec. What happens early here at 14? It's basically the top of the only green IPO candle is what it is. Yeah, that's actually a really important line. You know what? Let me just raise it just a little bit more and make it a little bit better. That's actually the true resistance right there. How good of a line is that? Where do we close? 1451. Oops, not duplicate. 1451. Cool. That's the line we care about. Oh, what happened? Cool. We froze a little bit. So that is a very hard line. 1451, you just saw me do it, was the first green good candle of the IPO pop before it dropped. That's a tough line. I still think gap up earnings. I can't tell why this one isn't doing as well, right? Like I maybe it is actually just because volume isn't there. I drew this line. We were saying volume needed to get this high, and it actually never really did after this initial little pop right here, right? So maybe the issue just is volume. I don't know. The other thing I said on the opening thoughts, not NVIDIA, NVIDIA. NVIDIA is still kind of figuring out what it's doing with these moving averages. There's also a little bit to say that there's now a cluster of three. I do call it a cluster when there's three or more moving averages, right? So maybe it's just going to start living, up and down across the cluster until something happens, some news or something, right? But yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty with NVIDIA. And I think with that is just the AI alone, and maybe that's why this sector's slowing down. We saw quantum take off. We were looking at that a couple days ago. Robotics is starting to take off, right? There's some crypto tickers that we're looking at on the Discord, they're starting to take off, right? So I don't get why SoundHound isn't, and Nvidia is kind of my best guess. But I think at the minimum, we moved the line that was previously a little lower to 1451. Yo, there is so much to love over 1451. And I think there's no such thing as safe. You know that, right? But I would basically use 50% candle right there. And I think 1490 is maybe an easy confirmation number. But yeah, look, our lower indicators are actually really nice. And if this thing gets to 1452, I could see it being good if time frames show it, right? So let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions. Even if you disagree, let's come into open. And hey, the first thing I want to say is hopefully you watched yesterday's video and had a plan coming into today, right? Because look, eating a 13% candle loss is not an easy thing, all right? That's no one wants to lose double digits ever, right? But if you were ready for it, there's so much you can do with that, right? And I think the point of this video is going to be, look, I think there's a very real possibility of another roughly 10% drop, right? Because I think we can lose another 90 cents and oh, that's even more actually, right? Hold on, because I lose 90 cents and then that's a high 8. That's like somewhere around here. And then it's actually oh, no. I'm doing math wrong. Wow, that was real bad math. You lose the 90 cents, it's about the dollar, and you're at the 810. That was embarrassing right there. I apologize. So, yeah, look, I think there's a possibility of losing another 10%. I do, all right? And it almost lines up. Look, again, I don't know the math behind these lines, right? But eventually this was an 80% day, right? Yeah, 79% day, right? Like, that's going to do some things to the lines, especially as this becomes the focal point of the next 8 days, right? So I could see the 8 moving average starting to make some moves, and maybe over the next day or two basically getting to that line right there, right? So this is the perfect view. We go up and away from the 8, then right back to it. Up and away all the way to here even, and then right back to it, right? And then up and away, and then right back to it, up and away. Right now, we have to assume to ourselves we're going to come right back to it, right? Unless the stock tells us otherwise, that's been the MO of this thing, right? It's at least cool to see that this was a decent line to draw. We basically opened right there, right? We opened just a couple cents below that thing. Again, I went back and forth. I talked about normally I would do a 50% candle, and that's actually where we closed today. I did choose the 2 lines that we were looking at really based on this 2022 moment. So you can see where the lines are. It's basically the bottoms, right? Nope, not this one. This one. Sorry, my apologies. This guy right here. So it's basically kind of the bottom of that thing right there, the bottoms of right there, tops and bottoms of that thing, little top right there, top of that guy, big 50% candle right there, and that and that. So that's why I took those 2. It was back there from 2022 as opposed to just the single yesterday. But yeah, I think even drawing the single yesterday, 50% candle at roughly 9 would have been a really good draw, right? So you can use, if you're using just 9 instead of these 2, at this point, your next line would definitely be down here at 740, right? So I think this at least gives us a little something between here and that and 740, right? But cool. Yeah. Again, I think that's that right there. Where are we on the weekly? Look, this is still not too bad. I like the solid, volume growth. The one thing, and the main reason why I said not too bad, 88 is definitely on the higher side of the RSI, right? We have never been this high on the RSI. What were you back here? Oh, okay. I take that back. You actually were a 90.26 RSI around the start of this thing. Did you get that high too? No, you're in the 80s. Yeah, you're in the 80s. 80s. Yeah, this is definitely on the higher side of the RSI, right? But aside from that, man, that MACD looks really nice, and literally this thing is bouncing really well. But I think the other thing I can see is this weekly goes away from the 8 and then back to the 8. This thing goes away from the 8 and then to the 8. We are now away from the 8 and maybe coming back to the 8's realistic. Let's not talk about 7 yet, but if things were to get crazy, and again, you know me, we're going to talk about both sides of the coin, the good up and the bad down, right? And we'll talk about the good up shortly. But yeah, I think if we were to lose that 770, at least keep it in mind that 7 is below that, and really that's the 20% from where we're at. You're basically going to lose two sets of 90, right, to lose $2. So again, just think about things both sides of the coin, right? So let's talk about the good. Look, if this can get over that 980, 990, my next line right now is at 11 something. I'll draw one more line just to have it. Yo, there are people talking about 80. There are people talking about 30. Listen to me. I would love it. I'm telling you, I would love it if it got that high, right? Slow and steady is what we're here for. If you're expecting 80 and you know you've made a good ride to even 11 and you don't bank because you're expecting 80, oh man, that sucks. But when you were only expecting 8 and then now you're pushing 9 and then you start knocking on the door of 11, it makes it a little easier to make a little more immediate decisions than long, because again, you just got to remember time frames do crazy things, right? But yo, if this thing was to break 1160, it actually will be a pretty fast. That's going to be the next fast pop. I had to guess. It'll probably be. No, that's too low. It's top of that candle. It's 14 after 11. All right. Again, even 14 is a lot to think about on a $9 stock right now, right? But that's basically what we are looking for at this point. Get me over 990. I'll expect. I don't want to use the word expect, but I'll be looking for 1160. You break 1160, we're gonna go to 14. And I mean, look. End of the day, there is a lot of green, 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 red, 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 green, 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 red, red, red that we're trying to green, 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 right? And it's more than just a silly little phrase. It really does happen, right? So as long as the technicals are our friends, as long as the volume's still there, right? Today was kind of a low Friday, and it was still almost a half a billion shares, right? So as long as it's all there, let's just see where it goes. All right. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions, even if you disagree. We're gonna wind it out with SOFI, and look, there are trades you can make that will not bring you gray hairs and sleepless nights. All right. There is no such thing as guaranteed. There is no such thing as safe, but there's for sure crazier and calmer charts. And really, that's on the up and on the down, right? You're not going to get these crazy, crazy 80% days, 240% days, 40% days even, right? But if you're looking for something that's going to slow and steady up and then occasionally kind of slow down, but nothing crazy, crazy, right? Like there are tickers that you can find of that. There's extremes of that. And then there's the, I'm going to call SOFI a aggressive steady stock. And I say that because look, in a lot of ways this thing still needs to kind of establish itself a little more and do this and do that, but yeah, by no means is this as slow and steady as like MasterCard or Chase or Bank of America or Wells Fargo, right? Like SOFI is still kind of I'm an up and coming scrappy little ticker, right? And like I'm ready to run into all time, right? So I like that, but SOFI, I've always seen this thing as a trade without gray hairs, and it's almost the opposite of the chart reader videos that we do, right? But oh man, I love today for like one simple reason, and I said it in the opening thoughts. We didn't even get the white line on the volume. We actually have red over green on the lower indicators, MACD and the RSI, right? But I love it so much. I'm gonna delete this line, but we are now over the biggest candle to the left, right? Like we couldn't get over this biggest candle to the left for way too long. And if you've been watching the videos, right, the theory had been on this earnings right here in the beginning of the year, we just went horizontal and horizontal and horizontal for almost an entire month before reality hit. Then on this earning, right, we went horizontal and horizontal and horizontal for almost a full month, right? You can even pull it to here before you really saw the truth happen, right? We've now come to this earning, and you can actually say this is a little bit less horizontal, right? But we're still actually kind of mimicking this, right? We're still kind of in this noisy little choppy month, right? Noisy little choppy month, right? Before the takeoff happens. And that's what it kind of feels like is about to come right now. This is over the biggest candle to the left. There is no other candle on this line except this thing right here. That it's two wicks. There's no other candle on this 26. This was a tough line to get over. And I know generally I want a bigger percentage, I want a bigger candle, this and that. That feels like it. And hey, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm giving this too much love before confirmation. Before I delete it, let me at least do this. If I'm wrong, and which is very likely because I'm just a human, right? I got no crystal ball, right? But if I'm wrong, I think this is at least the other way I would look at it, and maybe my options 1 and 2. Option 1, we've broken this really difficult line. Like I said, that we've actually never had a can. Even this candle, let me raise it a penny. Let's raise it a penny. Right there. It was at 26.15. It's now at 26.17. These candles never got over it, and we already knew in the back of that IPO moment it was just wick. So the stock SOFI has never ever had a candle over 26.17 before today. What I think is now happening is this line was that IPO resistance. It was resistance. If we didn't break it and I'm wrong, I think it'll be support, and go. Ideally, we now never lose this line. I'm going to delete this 25. I don't actually care about the 25 because actually the 20 moving average is right there. Let's never lose the 20 moving average and we'll be fine, right? But this is the new line, and as long as we don't go below this, I'm happy. I would like it, like I said, to go from resistance to go support up. One thing in my head though is I don't think we even need to do it because that's a 60 RSI. We've got the room to go and take that from a 60 to an 80 RSI, knowing that NASDAQ looks nice, knowing that S&P 500 doesn't look bad. Look, end of the day, I do say I think SoFi has a lot of Dow Jones in it. It is a bank, right? Like it's financial movements. Like that's Dow Jones right there, right? There's not a lot of tech in stuff like that, even though it says it's a tech thing and technology is in the name, right? So maybe this is kind of a little bit annoying. We also have the rate cuts that are coming, right? Like FOMC is a stone throw away, and people aren't even saying there's going to be no cut. People are asking if there's going to be a bigger cut than just a 0.25, if they're going to do a 0.5, or I've heard people say 0.75. I don't think on this cut. I think combined over the next couple calls, maybe that's realistic, but nonetheless, right? Like SoFi has FOMC things going for it. It's got index all-time highs, and I think more than anything, this is the first candle, because again, this candle closed at 26.15. We've never been candle close over 26.17. We did it today by actually almost 40 cents on top of that, right? So look, let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions, even if you disagree. Oh, and then, hey, for the number, sorry, I'm expecting 20% after 20% after 20% after 20% until the stock says I'm done. That's what all-time high means. There are no resistances up here. This is wicks. Wicks mean absolutely nothing in my strategy, right? So I would expect this thing to get another $4 and then another $6 and then 20% after 20% after 20%, as long as it's bouncing on the 8 and the 20. That's what all-time highs mean, right? That's what we love. So now let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions. Even if you disagree, oh, I appreciate you all so much.